Commander Taman stood on the bridge of his warship and looked at the blue planet through the viewing screen. Earth floated in space like a marble covered in white clouds and vast blue oceans. His 6 eyes studied the data streams flowing across his console. The numbers made him laugh with cruel pleasure. "Look at this pathetic world," he said to his second-in-command, Officer Haksu. 71% of the surface is covered in useless water. What kind of stupid species wastes so much space on liquid? Haksu nodded his scaled head in agreement. The intelligence reports show they have cities only on the small land areas. Their population is spread thin across the continents. This will be the easiest conquest in Coalition history. Taman had conquered 12 worlds for the Galactic Coalition. Each victory had brought him closer to the rank of Supreme Commander. Earth would be his 13th triumph, and then the promotion he deserved would finally be his. He had studied every detail about this waterlogged planet for months. The humans had primitive technology. Their fastest ships barely reached their own moon. They fought wars with metal projectiles and crude explosives. Most importantly, they seemed to fear their own oceans. The deepest their submarines could go was a few kilometers down. Clearly, they were a land-based species that avoided the crushing depths of their own world. "Prepare the landing forces," Taman ordered. "We will strike their coastal cities first. Once we control their ports, the rest will surrender quickly." Far below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, Captain Hansol received the message he had been waiting for his entire life. The alien fleet had finally arrived. He stood in the command center of humanity's greatest secret, surrounded by walls of reinforced transparent metal that held back the crushing weight of 4 kilometers of ocean water. The Leviathan's call was not just a submarine. It was a mobile city stretching over 2 kilometers in length. Its hull was forged from materials that could withstand pressures that would crush any surface-built vehicle. Inside its corridors, 15,000 people lived and worked in preparation for this moment. "All stations report ready," said Lieutenant Yuna from her position at the communications console. Her voice was calm, but Hansol could see the tension in her shoulders. They had trained for this day for 20 years, but training was different, from the real thing. Hansol looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet in orbit above, 47 ships of various sizes, all positioned exactly where the computer models had predicted. The aliens were following standard space-to-surface invasion patterns. They would attack the coastlines first, expecting human defenders to meet them on land or in the air. They had no idea that most of humanity no longer lived on the surface. "Send the activation signal to all deep cities," Hansol commanded. Across Earth's oceans, the signal traveled through quantum-encrypted channels built into the ocean floor itself. In the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, and Arctic oceans, massive structures began to stir in the crushing darkness of the deep sea. New Tokyo lay 7 kilometers beneath the surface of the Pacific, its bioluminescent towers stretching upward like the tentacles of some giant sea creature. 300 million people lived there, working in laboratories and factories that produced technology no surface dweller had ever imagined. The city's defensive systems came online with a low hum that vibrated through the water for hundreds of kilometers. Deep London sat on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean, its domes housing the production facilities for humanity's most advanced weapons. The city's inhabitants had been born and raised in the crushing depths. Their bodies were adapted to high-pressure environments. Their minds were trained to think in 3 dimensions, treating the ocean above them not as empty space, but as territory to be controlled. Arctic Base 1 floated beneath the polar ice caps, invisible to surface scanners and hidden from orbital observation. Its ice-boring equipment could create tunnels through glaciers in minutes. Its submarine fleet was designed to operate in the coldest, harshest environments on Earth. "Commander." Taman watched his landing craft descend toward the California coast. The human cities looked helpless from orbit. Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego showed no signs of advanced defensive systems. Their airports were filled with primitive aircraft that posed no threat to coalition technology. "Beginning bombardment of Target Zone 1, reported his weapons officer. The first energy beam struck downtown Los Angeles at exactly 14:32 Pacific Standard Time. Buildings crumbled, and fires spread across the city blocks. Taman smiled as he watched the destruction through his targeting systems. This was even easier than he had expected. Then the ocean began to move. 17 minutes after the bombardment began, massive geysers of water erupted from the seafloor off the California coast. The Pacific Ocean seemed to boil as enormous structures rose from the depths like awakening monsters. Taemin stared in shock as what he had thought was empty ocean revealed itself to be filled with human military installations. "What is that?" Haksu shouted, pointing at the tactical display. The answer came in the form of weapons fire unlike anything in the Coalition database. Streams of superheated water shot upward from the ocean depths, striking the landing craft with the force of controlled hurricanes. The pressure waves from explosions originating 4 kilometers underwater reached the surface with enough power to flip the alien vehicles like toys. Captain Hansol watched the battle through the periscope feeds as his weapon systems came online. The Leviathan's call was rising slowly through the water layers, its massive bulk moving with the grace of a creature born in the deep sea. "Target the lead destroyer," he ordered. Full torpedo spread. The weapons that launched from his ship were not the simple explosives the aliens expected. They were designed to function in the crushing depths of the ocean floor, their casings forged from materials that could withstand pressures no spaceborne technology could imagine. When they struck the alien ship's hull, the explosion sent shockwaves through both water and vacuum. Lieutenant Yuna coordinated the launch of the hydrospace fighters from her console. These vessels could transition seamlessly from underwater operation to space combat, their hulls designed to handle both the crushing depths and the vacuum of space. As they broke the surface around the alien fleet, their pilots were already trained for combat in 3-dimensional environments that surface dwellers could barely comprehend. Commander Tae-min realized with growing horror that he had made a terrible mistake. This was not a primitive water world with a few land-based defenders. This was an ocean civilization that had been preparing for interstellar warfare while hiding in the depths of their own planet. As his ships began falling from the sky like burning rain, Taemin understood that the Coalition had finally met an enemy they had never encountered before. Humanity did not just live on Earth. They had become part of it, and the crushing depths of their oceans were about to teach the galaxy a lesson in the true meaning of pressure. Admiral Kyung-ho stood in the command center of the Abyssal Shield, watching through multiple screens as the first phase of humanity's counterattack unfolded. The underwater fortress was built into the side of an ocean trench, its weapons pointing upward toward the surface like the spines of some ancient sea creature. For 60 years, humanity had been building cities in the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. What the aliens saw as wasted water was actually home to over 3 billion people living in massive underwater colonies. These cities were connected by transport tubes that ran along the ocean floor, creating a hidden civilization that spanned the entire planet. "Status report from all sectors," Kyung-ho commanded. Lieutenant Commander Da-un looked up from her console. "Pacific Defense Grid is fully operational. Atlantic Command reports all systems green. Arctic Base confirms enemy vessels detected moving toward polar regions." The aliens had made their second major mistake. After failing to destroy Los Angeles quickly, they had spread their forces across multiple continents. They were trying to attack several coastal cities at once, thinking this would overwhelm human defenses. Instead, they had divided their strength and exposed themselves to attacks from every ocean on Earth. "Launch the depth charges," Kyung-ho ordered. "Show them what real pressure feels like." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, massive launch tubes opened for the first time in decades. The weapons that emerged were not designed for normal warfare. They were built to function in environments where the pressure could crush a normal submarine in seconds. When these depth charges reached the surface and exploded, they created pressure waves that alien technology had never encountered. The first alien destroyer to feel the full force of a deep ocean explosion simply came apart. Its hull, designed for the vacuum of space, could not handle the crushing force of water being compressed and released by weapons built on the ocean floor. The ship broke into pieces that rained down into the sea like metal snow. Captain Minho led his squadron, of hydrospace fighters upward through the water layers. These vessels were humanity's greatest achievement in military engineering. They could dive to the deepest parts of the ocean, then launch into space without any modifications. Their hulls were forged from materials found only in the deepest ocean trenches, making them stronger than anything the aliens had ever seen. "Blue Squadron, prepare for surface breach," Minho spoke into his communication system. "Remember your training. These aliens have never fought an enemy that can attack from below." His fighter broke through the surface of the Pacific Ocean, like a dolphin jumping into the air. Around him, 49 other fighters did the same, their sleek forms cutting through the water-air barrier with perfect grace. The alien pilots hovering above the ocean had been watching for threats from land and space. They were not prepared for enemies emerging from the depths of the sea. The dogfight that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The human pilots had trained their entire lives to fight in 3 dimensions, treating the ocean depths as just another battlefield. They could dive underwater to avoid enemy fire, then surface at unexpected angles to attack. Their weapons were designed to work in both water and vacuum, giving them advantages the alien pilots could not match. Commander Taemin watched in growing panic as his carefully planned invasion turned into a disaster. His tactical screens showed human forces rising from locations that his intelligence reports had marked as empty ocean. Entire fleets of submarines were surfacing around his landing craft, their weapons firing streams of superheated water that cut through alien armor like knives through paper. "How is this possible?" he shouted at his intelligence officer. "Our scans showed nothing but water in these areas." Officer Hak Su studied the incoming data with confusion written across his scaled features. "Commander, I am detecting massive structures rising from the ocean floor. These installations appear to have been hidden beneath thermal layers that mask their energy signatures." What Hak Su was seeing was the emergence of humanity's underwater cities. New Tokyo was rising from the depths of the Pacific, its bioluminescent towers breaking through the surface like glowing spears. The city's population of 300 million people had been preparing for this moment for generations. Their weapon systems were integrated into the city's structure itself, turning the entire settlement into a massive fortress. Deep London was breaking through the surface of the Atlantic Ocean, its dome structures designed to function both underwater and in open air. The city's factories had been producing advanced weapons for decades, storing them in hidden chambers that were now opening for the first time. Lieutenant Jinny coordinated the launch of transport submarines from her station aboard the Mobile, Command Ship Pacific's Wrath. These vessels carried human soldiers who had been trained to fight in underwater environments. Their armor was designed to handle the pressure changes of moving from deep ocean to surface combat. "First wave of assault. Troops launching now," she reported to Admiral Kyung-ho. "Target is the alien landing zone near San Diego." The human soldiers who emerged from the transport submarines moved with the fluid grace of people who had spent their lives underwater. Their weapons fired projectiles that used water pressure as a propellant, making them more powerful than conventional firearms. Their tactics were based on underwater combat, where enemies could attack from any direction. The aliens had trained to fight on solid ground and in the vacuum of space. They had no experience with enemies who could appear from beneath the waves, strike with weapons they had never seen before, then disappear back into the depths of the ocean. Captain Wu Jin commanded the deep-sea battleship Kraken's Might as it approached the main alien fleet from below. His ship was over 1 kilometer long, its hull designed to withstand the crushing pressure of the deepest ocean trenches. When it surfaced directly beneath an alien dreadnought, the enemy ship had no time to react. The Kraken's Might breached the surface like a massive whale, its torpedo tubes firing at point-blank range into the belly of the alien vessel. The enemy ship's shields were designed to deflect energy weapons and projectiles coming from space. They were not built to handle attacks from weapons that had traveled upward through 4 kilometers of ocean water. Admiral Kyung-ho watched the battle reports, flowing in from every ocean on Earth. The aliens were retreating from the coastlines, their forces scattered and confused. Their invasion fleet was designed to conquer a land-based civilization. They had no tactics for fighting an enemy that lived in the crushing depths of an ocean world. "Send a message to all deep cities," Kyung-ho commanded. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2 preparations. The aliens thought they had seen the worst of humanity's defenses. They were wrong. The ocean-born cities were just the beginning. Deep beneath the sea floor, humanity had been building something far more terrible. The real war was about to begin. As the alien fleet regrouped in Earth's upper atmosphere, Commander Taman stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. In less than 6 hours, his supposedly easy conquest had turned into the worst defeat in coalition history, and somehow he knew the humans were just getting started. Commander Taman paced back and forth on the bridge of his flagship, his 6 eyes darting between the damage reports flowing across his screens. In 12 hours of fighting, he had lost 30% of his invasion fleet to an enemy that should not have existed. The humans were not supposed to have advanced technology. They were not supposed to live in the oceans. Most importantly, they were not supposed to be winning. Status of the landing forces? He demanded from his communications officer. All ground troops have been forced to retreat from coastal areas, came the nervous reply. The humans are using the ocean itself as a weapon. Our forces cannot establish secure positions when the enemy can attack from underwater at any time. Taman slammed his fist against the console. 27 years of military service, 12 successful planetary conquests, and now his career was being destroyed by a species that lived underwater like primitive sea creatures. The other coalition commanders would mock him for the rest of his life if he survived this disaster. Far below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, Captain Jinwoo prepared his experimental vessel for its first combat mission. The Tsunami's Edge was humanity's most advanced weapon, a ship that could manipulate gravitational fields to control water itself. The technology had taken 40 years to develop, using principles learned from studying the deepest ocean currents and pressure systems. Gravitational field generators online, reported his science officer, Dr. Haewon. Water manipulation systems ready for deployment. Jinwoo watched through his viewing ports as alien landing craft attempted to reach the shores of Japan. The enemy had learned to avoid major cities, instead targeting smaller coastal towns where they hoped to establish beachheads. They still did not understand that humanity controlled every drop of water in Earth's oceans. Activate the tidal protocols, Jinwoo commanded. The ocean around the tsunami's edge began to move in ways that defied natural law. Gravitational fields pulled massive amounts of water upward, creating walls of liquid that rose hundreds of meters into the air. The alien landing craft found themselves flying into what looked like solid barriers of ocean water moving at impossible speeds. The first alien transport hit the water wall and simply disappeared. The impact was like flying into a mountain made of liquid. The ship's hull crumpled as if it had been squeezed by a giant fist. The other transports tried to change course, but the water walls were moving faster than their engines could carry them. General Subin stood in the Pacific Command Center, 7 kilometers beneath the surface of the ocean. Around her, hundreds of technicians coordinated the global defense of Earth from consoles that glowed with bioluminescent displays. The command center was carved into the wall of an underwater mountain, its corridors filled with the constant sound of moving water and humming machinery. Arctic Fleet reports engagement with enemy forces near the North Pole, announced Lieutenant He Jin from her communications station. They are using ice-boring tactics to attack from beneath the polar cap. Subin nodded with satisfaction. The aliens had tried to use the Arctic as a safe zone, thinking the frozen wastes would provide them with a secure base of operations. They had not considered that humanity's civilization extended even into the coldest depths of the polar oceans. Captain Dong Su emerged from beneath the Arctic ice cap in his specialized submarine, the Polar Strike. His vessel was designed to operate in the harshest environments on Earth, its hull covered with heating elements that could melt through ice barriers in seconds. Behind him, a fleet of similar vessels rose through holes they had cut in the polar ice. The alien ships hovering above the North Pole suddenly found themselves under attack from directions they had not thought possible. Weapons fire erupted from beneath the ice, striking their hulls with projectiles that had been launched through solid frozen water. The enemy pilots had never encountered enemies who could use ice itself as camouflage and launching platforms. "Target the command ship," Dongsu ordered his weapons officer. "Show them that there is no safe zone on this planet." His torpedoes traveled upward through the ice and water, their warheads designed to function in the extreme cold of the polar regions. When they struck the alien flagship, the explosion sent chunks of ice and metal raining down across the frozen landscape. Back in the Pacific, Captain Wu Jin received new orders from Admiral Kyung Ho. The Kraken's might was to lead a full-surface assault against the main alien fleet. The time for defensive fighting was over. Humanity was ready to take the battle directly to their enemies. The massive battleship rose through the water layers with deliberate slowness, its weapons systems charging as it approached the surface. Around it, dozens of other capital ships emerged from the depths like awakening sea monsters. Their hulls were covered with bioluminescent markings that glowed in patterns no alien had ever seen before. When the human fleet broke through the surface of the Pacific Ocean, the sight was unlike anything in galactic history. These were not ships built in the sterile environments of space docks. They were vessels forged in the crushing depths of an ocean world, their designs based on the flowing forms of deep-sea creatures. They moved through the water with organic grace, then launched into the air with the power of breaching whales. Commander Tae-min watched in horror as the human fleet rose from the sea around his forces. His ships were surrounded by enemies that had appeared from an element his people had never learned to master. The coalition had conquered worlds of ice, fire, and vacuum, but they had never faced an ocean civilization. "All units prepare for emergency withdrawal to high orbit," he commanded. "We cannot fight an enemy that controls the battlefield itself." But as his ships tried to retreat upward, they found their escape routes blocked by human vessels that moved through both water and space with equal skill. The battle was no longer about conquering Earth. It was about whether any of the alien fleet would survive to report what they had learned. General Subin watched the tactical displays with calm satisfaction. The aliens were finally beginning to understand what they faced. Earth's children had not built cities on land and then learned to go to sea. They had been born in the crushing depths and learned to reach for the stars. The ocean was not their environment. It was their weapon, their home, and their greatest advantage. "Send the signal to Deep Command," she ordered. "Begin Phase 3 operations." The aliens thought they had seen the full extent of humanity's capabilities. They were wrong. The real demonstration of Earth's power was about to begin, and it would teach the galaxy that some species were not meant to be conquered. As the battle raged above and below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, the deepest parts of Earth's oceans began to stir with movement that would change the course of the war forever. Commander Tae-min stood alone in his private quarters, staring at the communication device that would seal his fate. The message from High Command was clear and brutal. He had 48 hours to achieve total victory on Earth, or he would face court-martial for the greatest military disaster in coalition history. His fleet was scattered across the outer solar system, hiding behind moons and asteroids like frightened children. 60% of his ships were destroyed or too damaged to fight. The humans had chased them from their own planet, using technology that defied everything the coalition knew about warfare. "Sir, the War Council is demanding immediate action," reported Officer Hak-Su from the doorway. "They are authorizing the use of the planet cracker weapons." Tae-min felt his scales grow cold with fear. Planet crackers were the coalition's most feared weapons, designed to shatter entire worlds from orbit. They had only been used 3 times in galactic history, each time against civilizations that refused to surrender after conventional defeat. Using them on Earth would mean the complete destruction of the planet and everyone on it. "Prepare the Death Star-class vessels," Tae-min ordered with a heavy heart. "If we cannot conquer this world, we will destroy it." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Captain Sang-ho received the warning signal from the orbital monitoring stations. The alien fleet was regrouping near Jupiter, their largest ships moving into attack formation. The energy signatures matched the descriptions of planet-killing weapons from the few worlds that had survived coalition attacks. The deep void was humanity's answer to this exact threat. The massive vessel had been built in the deepest ocean, trench on Earth, its construction taking over 30 years. Unlike normal submarines, it was designed to launch from underwater depths and fight in the vacuum of space while carrying the crushing pressure of the deep ocean as a weapon. "All stations report ready for launch," announced his first officer, Commander Yujin. "Hull pressure at maximum operational levels." The deep void began its ascent through 4 kilometers of ocean water. Its hull was forged from materials found only at the bottom of the deepest trenches, compressed by pressures that would destroy any surface-built vehicle. When it reached the vacuum of space, it would carry that crushing force as its primary weapon. Admiral Yun-Su coordinated the final phase of humanity's defense from the mobile command ship Oceanic Fury. Around her, the greatest fleet Earth had ever assembled prepared for launch. These were not ordinary warships. They were ocean-borne vessels designed to take humanity's mastery of the deep sea to the stars themselves. "Status report from all launch sites," she commanded. "Atlantic Deep. Reports the Continental Drift ready for launch," came the first response. "Pacific Command confirms the Mariana's Revenge standing by. Arctic Base has the Polar Leviathan prepared for deep space operations." Each of these vessels was the size of a city, built in the crushing depths where no alien spy could observe their construction. Their hulls incorporated living coral structures that could repair damage automatically. Their weapons used high-pressure water streams that could cut through alien armor like paper. The Continental Drift was the largest ship humanity had ever built. Constructed in the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean, it was over 5 kilometers long and housed a population of 200,000 people. Its launch from the ocean depths would be like watching a continent rise from the sea floor. Lieutenant Colonel Bo Young piloted her fighter escort squadron as the massive vessels began their synchronized launch. She had been born in the deep ocean cities and trained her entire life for this moment. Her fighter was equipped with weapons that used water as ammunition, firing super-accelerated streams that could penetrate any known armor. "All escort squadrons maintain formation during launch phase," she commanded through her communications system. "Remember, these aliens have never seen ships like ours. Use that surprise to our advantage." The launch sequence began at exactly 16:30 Pacific Standard Time. Across Earth's oceans, massive vessels began breaking through the surface like breaching whales. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Ships the size of mountains rose from the depths, their bioluminescent hulls glowing with patterns that told the story of humanity's long journey from land to sea to space. Commander Taemin watched through his long-range scanners as Earth's oceans seemed to come alive. Dozens of vessels were emerging from locations his sensors had marked as empty water. Each ship was larger than his entire battle group, their designs unlike anything in the Coalition database. "How many ships are they launching?" he asked his tactical officer. "Current count is 47 capital ships, sir. Each one appears to be larger than our biggest dreadnought. Energy readings suggest weapon systems we have never encountered before." The human fleet formed up in Earth's orbit with military precision that spoke of decades of training. These were not desperate defenders, making a last stand. They were ocean-born warriors who had been preparing for interstellar warfare while hiding in the depths of their own world. Admiral Chang Min broadcast from the bridge of the flagship Deep Command as the human fleet prepared for battle. His message was transmitted on all Coalition frequencies, ensuring that every alien in the solar system would hear humanity's declaration. "Attention, Coalition forces. You came to our world expecting to find a primitive species afraid of their own oceans. Instead, you have awakened something you do not understand. We are the children of the crushing deep. We were born in darkness where the pressure would destroy your ships before they could send a distress signal. We learned to swim in environments that would kill you in seconds." The human fleet began its advance toward the alien position near Jupiter. Their movement through space was unlike anything the Coalition had ever seen. These ships moved with the fluid grace of deep-sea creatures, their formations flowing and changing like schools of fish in ocean currents. Captain Sang-ho led the attack in the deep void, its weapons systems charging as it approached the alien planet cracker vessels. His ship carried the crushing pressure of Earth's deepest trenches in specialized chambers designed to release that force as a weapon. When his hull opened to fire, Streams of supercompressed water shot across the vacuum of space with the power of underwater volcanic eruptions. The alien planet Cracker ship tried to raise its shields, but the defenses were designed to stop energy, weapons, and solid projectiles. They had no defense against attacks that used the physics of crushing ocean depths as their foundation. The water streams punched through the alien hull like bullets through paper, each impact releasing pressure waves that rippled through the enemy ship's structure. Lieutenant Colonel Bo Young led her fighter squadrons in close support, their smaller vessels darting between the capital ships like dolphins playing in the wake of whales. Her weapons fired streams of accelerated seawater that could cut through alien fighter hulls in seconds. The enemy pilots had no tactics for fighting opponents, who treated three-dimensional space combat like underwater hunting. As the battle raged, across the outer solar system, Admiral Yun-Su watched the tactical displays with calm satisfaction. The aliens had made their final mistake. They had threatened to destroy Earth itself, not understanding that humanity's true strength lay not in defending their planet, but in carrying the spirit of their crushing oceans to the stars. The Coalition had learned too late that some species were not meant to be conquered. They were meant to explore, to adapt, and to thrive in environments where others feared to venture. In the depths of space, as in the depths of Earth's oceans, humanity had found their greatest calling. 6 months after the Coalition's surrender, Captain Hansol stood on the observation deck of the Leviathan's call as it moved slowly through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The great submarine Starship now served as humanity's flagship for their expansion into the depths of space. Around it, dozens of other vessels moved with the same fluid grace they had once shown in Earth's deepest oceans. The war had ended not with the destruction of the alien fleet, but with their complete surrender. When Commander Taemin realized that his planet Cracker weapons could not penetrate hulls designed to withstand the crushing pressure of ocean trenches, he had sent a message of unconditional defeat to both his high command and the human fleet. Status report from the mining operations, Hansol requested from his communications officer. Lieutenant Yun-Ah, now promoted to commander after her service during the war, looked up from her console with a smile. Asteroid Base 7 reports successful extraction of rare metals from the deepest core samples. The pressure drilling techniques are working even better in zero gravity than they did on the ocean floor. Hansol nodded with satisfaction. Humanity had discovered that the same technology they used to build cities in crushing ocean depths worked perfectly for mining the most difficult asteroids in space. While other species built fragile surface installations, humans carved their colonies deep into the hearts of space rocks, creating fortress cities that could survive any attack. The asteroid belt had become humanity's first major expansion beyond Earth. Using techniques learned from building underwater cities, they had hollowed out entire asteroids and filled them with artificial ocean environments. These space habitats housed millions of people who lived and worked in the familiar embrace of high-pressure water environments. Admiral Kyung-ho commanded the construction of humanity's first interstellar deep space habitat from his new flagship, the Ocean of Stars. The massive vessel was both a warship and a mobile city, carrying within its hull a complete ecosystem that could support 1 million people on journeys between star systems. The Coalition delegates are requesting another meeting, reported his aide, Captain Su-young. They want to discuss territorial boundaries in the outer systems. Kyung-ho laughed, a sound that had once struck terror into alien hearts during the darkest days of the war. Tell them what we have told them every time. There are no boundaries in the deep. There are only currents to follow and new depths to explore. The galactic community had been shocked to discover that Earth's supposedly primitive civilization possessed technology that made their own seem crude and outdated. Human pressure-forged hulls could withstand weapons that would destroy any space-built vessel. Their hydrodynamic designs moved through space with efficiency that alien engineers could not match. Most importantly, their warriors had been trained to fight in environments where the smallest mistake meant death from crushing pressure or explosive decompression. Dr. Haiwan led the research team aboard the science vessel Deep Explorer as it investigated the moons of Saturn. Her specialty was adapting Earth's ocean technology to work in the liquid methane seas of Titan and other outer system bodies. What other species saw as hostile alien environments, humans saw as new oceans to explore and master. Initial surveys confirm that Titan's methane seas can support modified versions of our underwater cities, she reported to Earth Command. The pressure differentials are actually easier to manage than our deepest ocean trenches. The coalition races watched in growing amazement as humanity spread through the solar system, with the confidence of a species that had always belonged in hostile environments. They built cities in the crushing depths of gas giant atmospheres. They mined resources from the cores of comets while riding them through space. They established colonies in environments so dangerous that other species needed massive life support systems just to survive brief visits. Captain Minho now commanded a new type of vessel, the Void Swimmer, designed specifically for travel between star systems. Like everything humans built, it was based on principles learned in Earth's deepest oceans. The ship could compress space around itself, using the same gravitational manipulation technology that had once controlled ocean currents. During the war, approaching the Alpha Centauri system, he reported to his crew. Prepare for deep space reconnaissance. Remember, we are not conquistadors seeking territory to claim. We are explorers looking for new currents to follow. His ship moved through interstellar space with the same grace that his ancestors had once shown while diving through the crushing depths of the Mariana Trench. The void between stars was just another ocean to humanity, filled with gravitational currents and pressure waves that could be read and navigated by those who understood the deep. The coalition had learned that humanity did not conquer worlds, in the traditional sense. They did not build surface cities and establish territorial boundaries. Instead, they found the most hostile environments on each planet and made those places their homes. They lived in crushing ocean depths, in the cores of asteroids, in the atmospheres of gas giants, and in the cold vacuum between stars. General Subin, now promoted to Supreme Admiral of Interstellar Operations, established her headquarters in the most unlikely location imaginable. Deep Command 2 was built inside a hollowed-out comet that traveled in a long orbit around the solar system. From this mobile base, she coordinated humanity's expansion to 12 different star systems. The Centauri colonies report successful establishment of deep space habitats, announced her aide, Colonel Bo Young. They have identified suitable locations for pressure cities in 3 different planetary ocean systems. Subin studied the star charts with the same careful attention she had once given to ocean depth maps. Each star system was a new sea to explore. Each planet a potential site for cities that would be built not on safe surfaces, but in the most challenging environments available. The other species of the galaxy had tried for thousands of years to make space comfortable and safe. They built enclosed habitats with artificial gravity and filtered air. They avoided radiation, pressure changes, and temperature extremes. They sought to recreate the gentle environments of their homeworlds wherever they went. Humanity had taken the opposite approach. They had learned to thrive in environments that would kill other species in seconds. They built their cities where the pressure could crush metal, and their ships where the cold could freeze gases solid. They did not try to make space comfortable. They made themselves strong enough to call any environment home. Commander Jin Woo piloted the exploration vessel New Horizon toward a binary star system that coalition surveys had marked as too dangerous for colonization. The gravitational forces between the 2 stars created pressure waves that could tear apart conventional spacecraft. For humanity, it was simply another ocean with stronger currents. Beginning deep space survey of the Proxima system, he transmitted, back to Earth. Initial readings suggest excellent conditions for pressure-adapted colonies in the stellar coronas. As humanity spread across the galaxy, they carried with them the lessons learned in Earth's deepest oceans. They were not conquerors seeking to dominate territory. They were not merchants seeking profit from trade. They were explorers who treated the infinite depths of space as their newest home, and like all creatures born in the crushing dark, they thrived where others feared to venture. The galaxy had learned that some species were not meant to be contained on single worlds. They were meant to swim between the stars, following currents of gravity and radiation to depths that others could not imagine. In the vast ocean of space, humanity had found their true calling, and the universe would never be the same.